Okay. So the lighting is a situation. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can make this brighter. Excellent. I think we got a little bit of light going on there. Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm not anticipating that a ton of people will be able to see this live. So I'm sure you're probably going to see it in the replay, which is totally fine. It's just way faster and easier to get this up by doing a live. So hello, we got some people watching. Hello, everyone. So today we are going to be talking all about buying pagan things, buying witchy things, and sort of budgeting tips. We're going to touch on that Sephora scandal, witchy scandal. Hello, greetings, Melton. So we're going to touch on a couple things. I'm going to try and get through everything fairly fast because I am running late, unfortunately, tonight. I apologize for the lateness. Kept trying to get this to happen and then it didn't. And so now here we are. But we're here now. And that's the most important thing. So, okay, let's start. First and foremost is, where do we get our witchy pagan things? And how do we feel about the mass marketing of pagan witchy things? And it's an interesting one for me because I think I fall somewhere in the middle, which is pretty common for me. I believe in balance of things. And so I like being able to see all the different sides of something. So on one hand, I really appreciate the heritage and the importance that older items hold. So especially heirlooms that have been passed down in a family, or even things that you find at a thrift store, they're able to cleanse and then use yourself, kind of upcycling them, so to speak, right? But, it's 3 in New Zealand. Oh, Milton, I really hope you mean 3 p.m. and not 3 a.m. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if it's 3 a.m. But thank you for watching. I think that there's something to be said for the connection that we can have to heirloom things. They tend to last longer. I was just on a camping trip and we used this water jug that my great-grandfather used, and it was his water jug. And that's what we used over the fire to hold the water all day long while the fire was going in order to do our dishes, after each meal. And it's old and it's held up beautifully. It's perfect. Its patina is perfect. It's excellent. And so I think there's something to be said for the way things used to be made. And the way things are made now is different. Mass marketing, not artisan. Artisan level is different, and we'll kind of touch on that. It's 3 p.m. Friday. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, first off, Milton, I'm glad it's 3 p.m., not 3 a.m. And wow, hello from the past, and you're in the future. That's so cool. It's Thursday here. So you're always living in the future, Milton. That's so exciting. How does that feel? I think that there is a place, though, for some of the mass marketed items. And the reason why I feel like there is a place for it, and when I say certain things, I don't mean the kind of stuff that we'll talk about later, the Sephora type stuff. What I mean is, I think there's a place for, tarot decks in Barnes and Noble. And I think that there's a place for being able to get a wand or to get candles, things like that, more readily available. So when I was younger, those things weren't as readily available. We had a local occult shop, and if they didn't stock it, well, you're kind of out of luck unless you wanted to take the 3-hour drive down to Salem. So I lived near Salem, Massachusetts, which always really had a lot of occult shops. So there was really no problem finding things if you made the trip down there. But if you were in, the Midwest or something, there might not have been an occult shop near you. And so it definitely was harder to get things. Now you can pretty much go, you can get candles at Walmart, So I think that what I like about the ease of some of the tools is that it does make things more accessible for people, because unfortunately, with the economy the way it is, with the economy the way that it is in the United States, it's really difficult for a lot of people. And sometimes you want something to do a ritual, and you can't always afford to go and have an artisan or buy it even at an occult shop. So that's something to keep in mind, where I do think there is a place for the mass marketed things in that way, like ease of access to basic essentials. We'll talk about the Sephora thing in a minute, but so yes, I think there's a place for that. Milton, how does it feel? Always living in the past. It's just to learn the present from time to time. Milton, you're so right. We should be living in the present more. We should absolutely be living in the present more. I know. I guess I'm living in the past all the time. I didn't even know it. Hi, Caleb. Hi, Kelly. Hello. Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Especially because I was so late. My apologies for being so late. We need to call the herd. Oh, wow. That's an extreme view. J. Pearson, 34. Okay. That's your take on it. Okay. I think we need to step it up. I think human race in general needs to step it up. I think if we don't, the planet's in a lot of trouble. But and so Milton, yes. So making it. So you just touched on something. Hello, Mia or Maya. I don't know which one it is. I'm so sorry. Or it could be neither of those, and I'm totally pronouncing it wrong, and I'm so sorry. But Stuart, hello from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Hello. So making things, that is absolutely one of the ways that I feel I bring a lot to my practice, is when I make things. Now, that doesn't mean that I start from absolute scratch. And from Vancouver Island. Hello, Brian. Maya. Okay, so Maya. So when I make things, I like to do crafty things. I think I've shown, probably if you've seen me on my personal channel, or if you've seen this channel too, I've shown bits and pieces of my Book of Shadows and things like that. So I'm a crafter. I love to craft. I love to make things. I own a sticker shop. So I love that sort of thing. So for me, I absolutely make a lot that I use in my practice. But I also create things and craft things. So I have a wand that I had when I was really, really little, that was made from a stick that I found on the beach in Ireland, so there's things like that mean a lot. So I think that making something is really important. And the more energy that we can put into something, the more we're going to get out of it. So I really encourage people to, even if they didn't make the base level of it, try to give it your own flavor and your own personality, add something to it or change it up somehow that makes it really personal. So we can cleanse things and get rid of any negative energy from before, and that's great. We can empower things and imbue things with what we want them to have. And I think that it's good to make things personal. That way you feel like it belongs solely to you, and it has a little bit of you in it. Yes, exactly. So J. Pearson just wrote that it could be a piece of plastic, but if it means something to you, then you use it. And that is absolutely, I agree with completely. Excellent. So here's where I think that we need to kind of think about is the other side of it. So one of the other parts of this topic is not only the mass marketing as far as like accessibility, but the fashionizing of witchcraft and paganism in general. So that is something that I am not very cool with. So last year, Sephora, so this is one of the questions. So there's basically 3 questions this week. And one of them is about Sephora, and it kind of goes in with this mass marketing thing. So, and technically it wasn't Sephora. It was a company called Pinrose. It's a perfume company, and they released a preview image that they were going to have this witch starter kit, and that really caused an uproar. in the pagan community. And because it caused such an uproar, it was actually shelved and it was never brought to the consumer. It was never put on shelves in Sephora at all. And there was a whole host of problems, as I've talked about here on this channel. So I'm biracial. I'm Kanesatake of the Haudenosaunee, which are the Iroquois. I'm Kanesatake Mohawk. So that's something that is very important to me. And Indigenous peoples' sacred plants have been used and abused for many, many years. And so there was a huge uproar in the Indigenous community and First Nations peoples as well, because it included a bundle of sage in this starter kit. And of it, then to have it say a witch starter kit, you would a Catholic starter kit or a Jewish starter kit or a Muslim starter kit. You know what I mean? So the point is that it was basically taking a religion and fetishizing it and making it a fashion statement, and not giving it proper respect that was due. So that was the biggest problem with it. Now, some people didn't have a problem with it. They liked it. I was not one of those people. I personally felt like it was not, if you wouldn't do it for another religion, then it shouldn't be done for our religion. That was my personal view. But again, other people might think differently. Let's see. Oh, yes. Etsy. Pearson. I'm going to totally talk about Etsy. Absolutely. And carving a rune on small oak. Yes. Yeah, Brian, I agree with you about the YouTube witches as well. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Yeah, that witchy aesthetic, that's not something I have too much of. I do have a little Daenerys Targaryen up there, and a couple of mermaids. I don't have a particularly witchy aesthetic, but I was born a witch, so I guess I don't really need much of a witch aesthetic. But I just personally did not like what Penrose was doing. I didn't feel like it was appropriate. It wasn't respectful of a religion, and frankly, it wouldn't be tolerated if it were for another religion. And if it wasn't appropriate for another religion, then it shouldn't be appropriate for our religion. Whether or not you identify as a witch, there's a religious aspect to it. It's a religion, pagan religion. Some people do identify that way. Not all pagans do, obviously, but it's religion, and it's not being respected when it's not treated as other religions would be treated. So that was my biggest problem with it. Jason. Okay, I will call you Jason. So it is absolutely, Kelly, you're right. It's not fair to their choice of style. Exactly. That is a good point too. I know for me, I have had my witchy moments. There's nothing like wearing a cloak, walking down the cobblestone streets in Salem, Massachusetts. I went to college in Salem. So there were many a winter I used my cloak and was walking up and down the streets, going to work and to class. So I definitely have had a witchy aesthetic at times. The difference is in that being part of the community, we can do that. If you are part of the community, you own it, then it's yours and you can do what you want with it. What I have a problem with is when people who are not part of the community sell it for profit. I think that's my biggest problem. When people who are not part of the community, profit off of the community without giving back to it and without respect. So that was my biggest problem with it. And then the next part of this was budgeting. I don't want to get, I know I could probably talk about this forever and a day, but the budgeting part of it. So we talked a lot about making your own stuff. And then I wanted to get to Etsy. So I actually sell on Etsy my stickers. So I'm actually really, here's the thing. Etsy has its own issues being like a bigger corporation. And sometimes it's not the nicest to sellers, but it's a huge platform for handmade artists. And those artists definitely deserve to be patronized. They definitely deserve to have people, seek them out and to buy from their shops. There are, unfortunately, some people who are just reselling things from China and things like that on there. you're going to find that. But it's usually pretty easy to suss them out if they're not real artisans or not. And you can have that conversation with them and get to know them, because, we can shop local, absolutely, and that's great. But sometimes what you want isn't local, and maybe, 4 states away somewhere else, or maybe in Australia or New Zealand, somebody is making something that really speaks to you and would be just the perfect thing for you. And Etsy does give that platform to be able to do that, and to be able to, support small business, which is really, really important. So I think that's really cool. Brian thinks we should bring the cloak back in fashion. I agree. My cloak is so warm. Oh my gosh, I love my cloak. It's my winter coat. So I just prefer it. This is I'm a Ren Fair junkie, a LARPer all through high school and college. So I have a lot of clothing like that. And yes, you can also buy from fellow pagans on Etsy, Jason. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's one of the cool things, is you can really seek them out. There are a lot of shops that are pagan owned. So therefore you're literally supporting the community that you belong to. And I think that is so important. As a member of the LGBTQIA community, during Pride, there was a lot of major corporations who were, selling at super high price, rainbow themed stuff. And some of them were giving to charities, LGBT youth charities and things like that. However, a lot of them weren't. And that's where I wasn't okay with it. Like, I'm all fine if they want to give back to the community that they are profiting off of. But if you're not going to give back to the community and you're not part of the community, it's one thing. If you're part of the community, then that money is going directly to you. And that's who it should go to, is somebody in the community. So if you buy from a pagan on Etsy, that's where your money should be going to, is someone in the community. But when people outside the community start profiting off of it, that I definitely I take a little bit of I got a bone with that. So Caleb was just going to say Pride. Exactly. Hello, Kathleen from Houston. Hudson, Massachusetts. Oh, cool. Nice. Hello. I was just talking about how I went to Salem State University. So actually it was Salem State College when I went. I'm aging myself a little bit here. But yes, that's very cool. So as far as budgeting goes, the biggest thing I can say is start with handmade or upcycle. So taking something you already have or a family member has and making it your own, or going out in the woods, finding something and then making it your own. So that would be my first step, because more than likely that's going to be either free or pretty close to free if you just need to add a few little things to it. And then the next step would be definitely looking at thrift stores and kind of garage sales and things like that. I know I have a lot of pieces. I got a beautiful potbelly cauldron from like a secondhand or antique shop in Peterborough, New Hampshire, actually, way back in the day. And I absolutely loved it because I always had a tiny one, but this one is huge. And I've used it now for so much, and I'm able to do big things in it now because I have, I tend to do a very big family Samhain celebration every year and a Beltane celebration. And so having a really big cauldron to work with is really nice. So, Austin, Texas. Nice. Milton. Yes, exactly. So Milton, you're spot on with that. My problem with people dressing in a witchy aesthetic isn't with witches dressing that way. If a witch wants or a pagan wants to dress that way, absolutely own it. It's the people who are dressing that way who are not part of the community, but they're dressing that way just to say, like, this is, I'm a, they're putting on a witch persona without it. To me, it really borders that cultural appropriation line. It's a religious appropriation. And it's not that there's not style. I mean, you can have a style. It's when they purport to be something that they're not. I think that's my biggest problem, is when people try to, it's all in how you do it, right? Just like cultural appropriation, dressing up in a headdress and trying to say how and stuff like that. That is hurtful and harmful to Indigenous communities. I know when I see that, and I see people dressing up as Indians, little kids dressing up as Indians and pilgrims and stuff like that. Like, it bothers me because it's A, it doesn't tell the whole story, and B, it's the stereotypical. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. But somebody who is, trying to find themselves, and they feel good and they're not sure why, and they're researching and they're learning, and they think they might go down the path, but they have this cool witchy aesthetic and they're drawn to it, and they're reading some books at the same time, and that's how they're feeling. They're just not necessarily ready to say, yeah, I'm pagan, or I'm going to follow this path or something. I'm cool with that. Like, they're discovering something and they're doing it in an honest way, in a natural, like, the way that it's respectful, right? Caleb, yes. I know the Ren fairs have gorgeous books, don't they? Oh my gosh, there's so many amazing booksellers. Some really, really beautiful things out there. Has anyone seen Brahms books? Oh, the Brahms grimoires are, oh my gosh, they're gorgeous. I've held a few of them. They're very heavy though, like very, very heavy. Mine is huge. If you've seen my video here, mine is quite big, but mine doesn't have any metal on it like Brahms does. But yeah, mine's huge, 11 by 14, and it's about yay thick, like yay big. So it's quite large. But then after thrift stores, I would say that's when, looking into, and also determining what you need. I mean, if all you need is a few of a particular color candle, right? Say you're doing some candle magic and you just need those little tiny candles, in a particular color, go buy them. Go buy them cheap. There's no reason to go out of your way. I mean, unless you have the funds and you want to support a local artisan who hand dips them and everything, that's great. But there's no, you can go get that from a store, nowadays, because it is more accessible. And so it's really going to be about what you need it for, right? And if you're looking for a piece that's going to last you and things like that, that's when I would definitely recommend seeking somebody out on Etsy or a local artisan and having something made for you if you don't make it yourself, or even making the base for you, or finding a base and then making it yourself. I definitely recommend that. Yeah, so I think that would be my budgeting. I would say budgeting tips are that, remember that this is, while yes, your faith is absolutely important, so is food, so is, your bills, so is your rent, things like that. And so as much as, that thing would be perfect for ritual and it might be calling to us, if it means you not eating that month, I know I would rather have you eat and sustain yourself. I know in my path, I could use a spoon from the kitchen just as I could use, a ritual wand. I can use both. I can also just direct energy with my hands if I need to. My religion is always with me. It's always here, and it's never going anywhere. And so that's something where, if somebody has to choose between, feeding themselves, or having a roof over their head, definitely, I don't want you to prioritize having a fancy cauldron or a fancy athame or something like that if, you're struggling in other ways. It's because it's not absolutely necessary. There are so many things that you can use instead of, in the natural world, out in the woods, pick up a stick and there you have a wand, your hands, things like that. So I just encourage people to know that, while those things absolutely can mean so much to us and can be so special, so you are special too. And I would never want anyone to sacrifice their health, or their safety or anything like that in order to obtain those items. Milton, beer cans can make great molds for candles. Yeah, they actually can. Totally. Milton, your book is awesome. Oh, that sounds lovely. And Jason, you say cleanse what you buy. Absolutely. It's smart to cleanse. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, for sure. So I think that would be my best advice is, if you have something really in mind that's going to be a real big important thing that's an heirloom that you want to pass down, definitely consider making your own or having it crafted for you or getting something kind of specialty made, so that has a little bit more care and attention. If it's something that's going to be kind of a use once and done, unless you really feel super drawn to needing to have something special, like if it's a small candle you need just for one working, that's something that you can just buy in the shop and buy, in the stores and things like that. But never ever sacrifice your health or well-being to get those items, because I don't feel like they're, while absolutely I use them and I have them and things like that. This is your faith. You can absolutely practice it without those things. But what you can't practice it is without you. So be safe. Please be safe and take care of yourself and make sure that your well-being is taken care of. And I think that's the most important thing. And if getting an item is part of that well-being, and that's what soothes your soul, then that's good too, right? Because sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need something that makes us, be able to hold on to something. So that's just as important too. So, I think the number one needs to be you, and then everything else comes after that. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm rambling. Yes, Brian, exactly. It doesn't make you a witch. They're fun. You don't need them. Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Rambling late at night. I apologize. So I think that's about it, unless anyone had any burning questions. But yeah, and I think that would be, Jason agrees. Yes, Maya, exactly. The thrift store, huge unopened tea light candles. Yep, that's perfect. That's exactly it. I love thrifting. That's one of my favorite things, because I always find ways to upcycle things. There's so many amazing things out there. I found a lot of shrines out of in like Home Goods or like Ross or in the clearance section. So sometimes they have those. I think they're meant for like candles or something, but they're like a little like pedestal thing that you put on the wall, and it has a flat top. And I think they're meant to be sconces or something like that. But I then will put fairy offerings on them. So a Lare shrine, and sometimes called Lhasa shrine, if you're familiar. But yeah, so it's great. They make perfect little spots, and usually you can find them in the clearance section. And so it's awesome. Thrifting is great. So yes, Brian, I completely agree with you. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being part of this. I love doing lives because I feel like I get to, communicate back and forth with you versus just talking at the imaginary YouTube in front of me. So thank you so much for being here. I know this was late for a lot of you and the next day for some of you. So thank you so much. And I will see you next week. But as always, blessed be and aloha. Bye, everyone.